When you combine home-based technology with the possible options of even working from home, and then add today's extreme weather environments, you can understand the need for residential backup power generation. Did you know that there are a lot of choices and considerations to be made when purchasing a backup generator for your home? Today on The Power Grid, we're going to look at some of these important options and make recommendations for your specific backup power needs. Hello and welcome back to The Power Grid, a podcast to help you build reliability in your electrical system and give you confidence in your power. I'm Branigan with Power Protection Products. We have been solving power quality problems for almost 30 years. We are your trusted advisor for critical power, cooling, and energy solutions. There are two types of generators, temporary and permanently installed. It is very important to consider all the implications of using a temporary generator to do the job of a permanent generator. Generators are there to make your life easier during what is usually a time of personal crisis. The storm damage repair, the power outage, the cleanup afterwards. The last thing you need to worry about is caring for and fueling your backup generator. This generator should be there to provide you with some sort of comfort and safety while you try to put your household back together. First of all, I would like to discuss why we have power outages, and more power outages now than we used to have. First of all, there's energy crunches. They can't supply enough energy to the residential neighborhoods because residential neighborhoods has increased their kilowatt demand, or because they're using some of that power from the substation to go to some sort of commercial or industrial enterprise. Power outages also come from storm damage, things like trees falling down on power lines, substations being damaged, or even power line failures themselves. There's also rolling brownouts, and they don't actually have to happen in the city you live in. Utility companies make contracts with other states to supply power when they need power because of their brownouts or because of their power issues. So you could have a situation where a power requirement in Texas is causing brownouts in Omaha because of the contractual relationship they have in the buying pool for power. I took a look at the power outages in my house over the last 27 years. I've lived in the same house for 27 years. It's an older neighborhood, it's an older house, and even though we've had two major power outages over the last 27 years, I've actually averaged 13 hours per year over the last 27 years of power outages. And here's how it gets calculated. In 1997, we had a snowstorm that came in the fall while the trees still had leaves on them, and it caused all the tree branches to fall onto the power grid, knocking out power to my house for over a week. A similar thing happened just in 2024 when a windstorm came through the city and actually knocked out the whole power grid, the largest power outage the utility has ever seen, all because of an 80-mile-an-hour windstorm that popped up and ran through the town. So if you take those 2 weeks of power outages, you add a few more half a day or a few hours of power outages, you can easily get to where you've calculated 13 hours of power outages over the last 27 years. Utility companies won't tell you that. They'll tell you that they keep their utility grid up 99% of the time or 98% of the time. But the reality is, if you're without power for a whole week or 8 days, as I recently was, you can see why we have to take backup power generation into our own control and manage our power system in our homes differently than what we've done in the past. We're seeing more snowstorms. We're seeing more windstorms. Not only are there more tree branches falling on power grids, but they're spending less money on trimming the trees over the power lines. And even if you have buried power cables, you still have considerations about transformers being overloaded as the residents continue to use more and more electricity. So with my experience since 1997, seeing 2 weeks of straight power outages in a few half-a-days, you can understand why backup power generation can be critical, more so now than ever before. So let's talk a little bit about the impact on your personal residence when there is a power outage. First thing you'll notice when you pull up to the driveway is that your garage door opener isn't going to work. There'll be no lights in the house. Your freezer won't be keeping your critical food cold anymore. There's no ice in the ice maker. There's no internet. There's no entertainment. There's no TV going. You may not even have air conditioning or heat when the power goes out. Now, in more modern day times, you might have no hot water because you have an electric water heater, or you might have a digital shower where you can dial in the temperature of your shower. That's not going to work. You might not have access to your laundry. Your washing machine or your dryer isn't going to work. Your dishwasher isn't going to work. All of these are comfort items that we have in our homes that require electricity. And how about that sleep number bed for those of you that have one? So let me tell you a story about 2 houses. One of them is my house in my neighborhood, and the other house is 2 houses away. We'll call it Phil's house. And let me tell you what happened in the most recent power outage, and we'll relate this to why you need backup power generation. First of all, I had a temporary generator, and I had to hook it up to my house because we had a power outage. This is a manual hookup. It's a manual transfer. I had to close the breaker on the main panel or open the main breaker on the main panel. The trees were knocking out the power grid. My power line was off at the power pole. I knew I wasn't going to get power for a while. So I hooked up the temporary generator. And I had tree branches on my generator, literally fell on my generator. So I had to clear those away just to get to them. I had to hook up the generator to the house because it is a temporary generator. I had to supply it with fuel. In this case, it was gasoline. And I actually got my house back up and running with the temporary generator, only to find out that my air conditioner couldn't handle the load of the generator. Now, if I would have had a soft start on my air conditioner, I might have had a better chance of having the generator handle the load. This was an 8 kW generator, by the way. Then I had to keep putting fuel in this generator. It burns about 1 gallon an hour, and actually this one had a 10-hour tank. So put in 10 gallons of gas, and you start fueling your generator's going. And it was very hot outside, I might add, at the same time. But at 6 a.m., I got to grab all of my empty fuel cans, go to the gas station, get another 20 or 25 gallons worth of fuel, and go back and get ready to supply fuel for the generators for the day. Then at night, you have to load the tank up again right before you go to bed and put in 10 more gallons of gasoline in the generator. And you end up, of course, spilling a little bit of gas on yourself, and you have to get cleaned up. And then it's also a good idea that you might have to do some load shedding in your house. Unplug the refrigerator that you weren't using, or turn off certain things in your house. Now let's take a look at what was going on over at Phil's house next door. Two houses down. Phil had a permanently installed generator that ran on natural gas, underground natural gas pipelines. He had no issues whatsoever. He had a generator that worked flawlessly during the entire week. It was quiet. It was running all the time. It was based on natural gas, so he didn't have to put fuel in it because we were on a gas line. His air conditioning was working great. In fact, he even invited me to stay over at his house because he felt a little bad because the whole neighborhood was in disarray, but he's living like nothing happened to him because he still has his air conditioner working and his power working. And it was an automatic transfer. He didn't have to do anything to hook this up. It transferred automatically on, and it also transferred automatically off. And so those are some pretty cool benefits of having a permanently installed generator, and just an example of someone getting by with a temporary generator that runs on gas versus a permanently installed generator that runs on natural gas pipeline to your house. So let's talk a little bit about what's involved in a permanent installation for a generator. First of all, you want to put your generator somewhere out of the way because there is going to be some noise, but you still have to service the generator. So usually you'll want to mount this generator on a pad next to your air conditioning unit is a good idea, or close to your electrical panel in your house, or close to your gas line. And the reason I didn't have a permanently installed generator on my house is because my natural gas line was in the complete opposite corner of the electrical panel of my house. And it would have required me to run a electrical line underground all the way around the house to get to the main electrical panel. There's also noise considerations. My generator is a lot louder than those permanently installed generators because they have sound dampening devices built into the enclosure. And then there's the whole concept of having an automatic transfer switch so that the generator can run when you're not there, or if you're out of town, you're not asking someone else to do the transfer for you. It's fueled by natural gas, so you don't actually have to go to the gas station at 6 in the morning and fill up cans full of gasoline and fuel your temporary generator. It's important to keep these under a service contract. So someone's coming out, changing the oil, testing the unit, making sure everything's going to work well. And that's not cheap, but it's well worth it. And these can be programmed to automatically test every 2 weeks or every week to make sure that these generators are working. And you'll have nothing to do with that except understand the testing that goes on. And the other thing that's even more important is make sure that this generator is securely mounted on a pad away from the tree branches. I had to dig my way through the tree branches just to get to my generator. And also away from possible flooding or potential flooding issues. Now let's spend a little bit of time talking about generator sizing. Okay, you need to size the generator much bigger than what your actual running load is. I would recommend on a typical house, you need at least a 22 kilowatt generator size, maybe even bigger. And you could ask, why do we want such a big generator? Why do I want 22 kilowatts when my house really only runs on 5 kilowatts or 6 kilowatts? Well, you have this thing called inrush current that you're going to need to be aware of. Every time that air conditioner starts or that furnace motor starts, there's going to be an inrush current. That generator needs to be sized to handle the inrush current, which can be 5 to 6 times its normal running load. And then you have to be concerned about future load increases, such as electrical hot water supply system, a spa or hot tub, different refrigerator or a new freezer. Maybe you might want to put heated tile floors in your house. That was one of the ways that I could reduce the load on my generator was by turning off the floor tile heaters. You may get an espresso machine, a fancy big espresso machine, and that's going to require some power to operate, especially with the inrush current. You might even want a generator big enough so that you can share a power cord with your neighbor. He'd appreciate it. So a permanently installed generator is going to impact your wallet. It's going to cost money. But the power grid will go out and you'll need to be ready. So make backup power a part of your household budget and a part of your household expenses for maintenance. Take care of that vital asset so it's there when you need it the most. Thank you for joining us today on the Power Grid. Backup generators for your home can be costly and labor intensive. It's important to consider all the features and options that can not only work for you, but can also work for your family if you're busy working on the recovery task. Check out more details in the show notes.